There are bad bills, and then there are bad bills filed by Texas conservatives. And this one is really awful. Basically, Texas Republicans want to allow public schools to replace trained counselors and social workers with unlicensed Christian chaplains. I'm not exaggerating that. That is what the bill says. There are two bills, actually, that say the same thing. Senate Bill 763 and House Bill 3614 would amend state law to allow schools to hire chaplains in lieu of people who actually know what they're doing. Here's what the text actually says. A school district may employ a chaplain instead of a school counselor to perform the duties required of a school counselor under this title. A chaplain employed under this subsection is not required to be certified by the State Board for Educator Certification. The rest of the three-page bills simply add chaplain to all the other parts of the existing law that say schools can use funding to hire social workers and the like. But in essence, a school would be able to bring in local pastors who have no formal certification to work with children while dismissing the experts who are actually trained to help kids. It is so wildly irresponsible. And the bills come at a time when Texas schools are struggling to find mental health providers at all. A Houston Chronicle report noted last year that Texas public schools serving 98% of students did not meet the Texas Education Agency's recommendation of one counselor per 250 students. They don't have enough counselors as it is. And these lawmakers want to fill those numbers up with unqualified Jesus people. That's like having a few drops of medicine left in a bottle and filling it up with water so that you're tricked into thinking you'll be healed. You're missing the main ingredients. The Chronicle said the reason for the counselor shortage all boiled down to funding. The state does not provide districts funding specifically earmarked for hiring these four positions: counselors, social workers, nurses, and psychologists. Districts have to cobble together resources from federal, state, and local revenue, as well as partnerships with philanthropic organizations. It's not just that the schools don't have the money to hire them, or that the professions don't pay people enough to seek out those careers. Universities may not have the money to train them. But none of this is because Texas doesn't have the money to do all those things. Because here's the thing, Texas has a budget surplus of roughly $32.7 billion. Yet these lawmakers are not even thinking about giving schools the resources they need to hire and train more mental health professionals. Instead, they want those positions staffed by chaplains who would undoubtedly be Christian and who don't need any paperwork to attest to their abilities to do the job. Real counselors had to go to school and get a degree and get first-hand training. Pastors don't have to do any of those things. And even if they went to seminary, there's no guarantee they know the best practices when it comes to working with secular or non-Christian children. Seminary students are not taught that the answer to life's problems don't have to involve Jesus or prayer. You know, we've seen plenty of symbolic examples of Christian nationalism, like putting "In God We Trust" in public schools. But this legislation would actively harm children by not giving them access to qualified professionals in a place where, and at a time when, they arguably need them more than ever. I mean, after every school shooting, Republicans always say we need to address mental health. And yet these Texas Republicans, who won't do anything useful about gun violence, are also choosing not to hire mental health experts. This is all part of a push by the National School Chaplain Association, an explicitly Christian ministry, in case you couldn't tell. In a press release celebrating the Texas twin bills, The NSCA ironically noted the need for more chaplains as a result of school violence. The majority of students have experienced at least one incident of violence while they were in school. In addition, most victims say it has negatively impacted their mental health and made them consider dropping out or moving to another school. The NSCA's chaplains help these students by giving them a solid spiritual foundation and a safe space to express their pain and frustrations. The association believes spiritual care has long been absent from the school system. You know what else has been absent from Texas schools? Actual care, which these people do not care about. Instead of making sure schools have enough funding to hire experts in mental health, the NSCA wants to replace them with untrained chaplains who only have Jesus at their disposal. We've already seen that happening in the military, with a gazillion Christian chaplains and 0 humanist chaplains. And there has been pushback for years from people who want solutions that don't involve one specific faith. Bringing chaplains to schools, high schools, elementary schools, won't solve any problems. It'll only create new ones. Why would a Muslim or atheist student be better off meeting with a Christian chaplain and not a trained social worker? Is there any reason to think non-Christian chaplains would ever be hired by any of these districts? What would the chaplain bring to the table that those other actual experts cannot? Absolutely nothing. If a child wants to see a pastor, their families ought to be able to arrange it on their own time. Even if the chaplains are prohibited from evangelizing in the public schools, their very presence sends the message that Christianity alone can solve problems. The entire assumption that chaplains are beneficial rests on the idea that mental health problems are the result of a lack of proper spirituality. There is no evidence that's true. The NSCA even says this on its website. Mass shooting and teens killed or injured by gun violence is at an all-time high. Make your school safer by hiring a chaplain. That's like a connect the dots puzzle with only 2 dots, and they still failed. At no point does the website suggest we need fewer guns in our society. Nope, just Jesus. That's it. That's their only answer to everything. One of the lawmakers who filed these bills, Mays Middleton, has filed multiple bills promoting Christian nationalism already, including one bringing Bible reading to public schools, and another that would do away with all kinds of church-state separation barriers. It's no surprise that he's pushing this religious nonsense now, because he firmly believes that the church, his kind of church specifically, should dictate all state policy. What's scary is that Republicans control the Texas legislature so thoroughly, there's no strong and sizable opposition to these bills. And the GOP doesn't give a damn about students enough to do anything that will actually help them.